Have you ever heard it said that if you drink on an empty stomach, you feel the effects of alcohol sooner than if you had a drank on a full stomach? How many people have heard that? Think that's true or false? It is true, and I'll explain to you why it is. There's a 2-scale drawing of my stomach. Okay? There's a valve down here. Do any of you ever watch Jeopardy? A couple of people, okay? This could be a Jeopardy question. There's a valve in your stomach called the pyloric valve. When there's nothing in your stomach, this valve is open. And the reason it is open is to let the gastric juices out so it doesn't build up, give you stomach problems. So if you have an empty stomach, your pyloric valve is open, and you drink some liquid, it comes in and it goes out and goes into your digestive system, into the intestines. That's where 80% of alcohol is absorbed into the body and then gets transported via oxygenated blood throughout the rest of your body and up to your brain, causing cognitive impairment. If, however, you have something to eat, now you have chunks of food in your stomach, that valve closes up. We don't want chunks of undigested food or unbroken down food going into the intestines. Now if you drink liquid on top of that, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, it mixes in with there. The stomach works on breaking that down, and when it's in a suitable form to go into the digestive system, this valve opens up and everything starts continuing on. So that's what slows the process. So that's why that's a true statement. Now, if we were talking about beer or wine or a mixed drink, what does it take to get to 0.10? Now what I'm going to put up here is on average, and this is based on a 150-pound person. Not everybody weighs 150 pounds. There is also differences in how your physical body is made up. I could take 2 people that are 150 pounds and they will metabolize or process alcohol at different rates than each other. So this is just on average. On a full stomach, it might take about 5 drinks in an hour to get to 0.10. On an empty stomach, it might take about 3 drinks in an hour to get to 0.10. Those are just averages. It might be less or more depending upon the person and how much they weigh. Any questions about anything that we've covered so far? Yes?
My dad, he has hepatitis B, and the doctor said that if he drinks too much beer or liquor or anything, it can hurt his liver. It can have this to his health. So can that hurt him as much as if he drank a lot? Can that really hurt him?
Well, the question was, he was talking about his father having hepatitis B, and the doctor saying that if he drinks that could cause problems because of the medical condition plus drinking. The reason it causes problem for the liver is 90% of all alcohol is processed through the liver to eliminate it out of your body as waste. 8% of it goes out through your breath, and 2% of it goes out in sweat. So sometimes when we pull somebody over for drinking and driving, they get out of the car, start doing push-ups, jumping jacks, thinking they can sweat it all out. Doesn't work. 8% of it's coming out through the mouth. That's why the breath test works. And the reason it would be hazardous to the liver is because that's where the alcohol gets processed out. Good question. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about, I want to talk a little bit about auto insurance. How many of you already have a car? You have your own car, not driving mom or dad, you got your own car. What kind of car do you have? 82 Oldsmobile. What have you got? What year? A 1986 Grand Am. Who else has their own car? What have you got?
82 Corolla GT.
82 Corolla. What have you got? 87 Buick Skylark. Okay, so we're hearing cars that are in the mid-80s. How many of you are going to have access to a car on a regular basis? Is that car going to be a 90s or older? 90s, early 90s, mid-90s. Maybe might have an airbag, might not. We'll be talking about the relevancy of that in a few minutes. Those of you that have cars, have you found out how much auto insurance is yet? What'd you find out? $1,200 a year. Is that just for yourself? unless you make a B average in school, and then it's a little less. Or if you get added on to your parents' policy or something, that can help lower it too. Now, what I want to talk to you about is when I first started doing these classes several years ago. Could I ask you to do me a favor? Would you pass these out? When you get a hold of this, I'd ask that you don't open it up yet. Just look at the front sheet, and that's what I'm going to be talking about now, and then we'll go ahead and start opening those up as I'm talking about it. I talk to people, students like yourself, about how much auto insurance costs, and they kind of laughed me out of the room. They thought I was making up numbers as scare tactics. So I went to an insurance company and I said, say, could you print up how much insurance costs if you're a male or a female, because there are differences in the cost depending upon whether you're a male driver or a female driver, and whether you have a good driving record and a good record of good grades that we just heard this gentleman talk about, and also if you've ever had a ticket. Now, what's being passed out to you, when you look at that, he also gave me a real policy, but we blocked out all the information, who it belonged to, their name, and so forth. This family is mom, dad, and a 16-year-old male driver. Their car is a 1992 Pontiac Grand Am. Before they added the son onto the policy, their insurance was right around $700 a year. You can see that I've circled what their insurance is now at the bottom of it. It's $1,116.80. So adding their son onto the policy added about $400 to their bill. He was rated a good student and had taken driver's ed. If he hadn't done those things, if he was not a good student, had not taken driver's education, it probably would have been a little more expensive. Now, the interesting thing about auto insurance, I would strongly encourage you that if you can get on the policy with your parents, that's what you should do, because it'll be much cheaper. If you have to go out and get it on your own, it's going to be much more expensive. Insurance is typically written in 6-month terms instead of a year. And that's because the insurance companies want to hedge that if they have a bad driver, they're only going to be stuck with them for 6 months, and then they don't have to renew the policy. So if you get insurance with a company and then you go out and wreck your car a month after you had insurance with them, they're going to carry you for another 5 months, and when you ask to renew, they're going to say, hey, too bad, we don't want to, go find another company. Or if you get a ticket, they're not going to want to renew you. You'll have to go get it on your own. And when you get insurance on your own without your parents, you're going to be in for a surprise. Now, I want to ask you, does anybody have an idea how much they think insurance would cost if they had just one ticket? And that ticket would be for what's called failure to yield, meaning that you ran a stop sign or you went through a red light. Does anybody have an idea how much auto insurance would cost? Don't peek. You're peeking there. How much?
$4,000.
$4,000. Well, it's not going to be that rough. What did you think? $3,000. You're closer. Guys, go ahead and everybody turn the page, and you'll see that it's $3,451. That's just for the driver. That doesn't include the rest of the family. That's just for the 16-year-old male driver. And the kind of car that I put this person in was a 1990 Chevy Cavalier. So I didn't look at some hot, sporty car. Now, gals, I told you that rates are different for guys and gals. They figure that gals are less apt to get in accidents. Turn the page and you'll see how much your insurance would go up to for one ticket. $2,589. Hey, such a deal. Well, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Now, here's the real shocker. Turn the page again. This is what happens if you're arrested for drunk driving, 16-year-old male. $3,469. That's only about $19 more than for a speeding ticket or for a failure to yield. Gals, yours just goes up to $2,617, which is barely another $25. The point here is that the insurance company doesn't care if you got a ticket or arrested for drunk driving. You are considered to be a higher risk, and you're going to have to pay through the nose for your insurance, which you are legally required to have. So the moral of the story is, first of all, don't drink and drive. And second of all, drive sensibly so that you don't end up getting pulled over and get a ticket. Because this is what the end cost is going to be. You may be upset about paying $95 for the ticket, but that's going to be the least of the problems when your insurance company finds out. Okay, you had your hand up earlier. Did you still have a question? Did you still have a question? Okay. Okay. Next thing I want to do is talk a little bit about seat belts. Your class goes till 4:30? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about seat belts. And before I do that, I'd like to ask how many people in this room have an interest in psychology or psychiatry? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, several of you. If you continue to pursue that interest, and those of you that don't have an interest now, if you develop one in the future, you'll learn about something that is called a C, S-E-E. It's a significant emotional event. Now, believe it or not, most of you are pretty much locked into the personality that you're going to have as adults. You're going to continue to mature some, cognitive reasoning, you should be learning, adapting, learning new things. But personality-wise, you're pretty much going to be the person you are. Your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are not going to change unless you have a significant emotional event. Significant emotional events can cover many, many different things. And what a significant emotional event does is it completely turns your point of view around 180 degrees. So as I said, you're pretty much in the personality that you have now. If you're a go-getter, like to be involved in things, like to do different types of activities, you'll probably continue to be that way. If you pretty much like to sit back, relax, idle by, watch life go by, that's pretty much how you're going to be unless you have a significant emotional event. I want to describe to you 2 significant emotional events that I had related to seat belts. Now, I went to North Central High School. I graduated from there, which will probably seem like an eternity to you, in 1977. Any of you alive in 1977? All right, got one person. Good deal. I don't feel too old now. I would turn 16 in 1 month. I had my car a month before I had a driver's license, wasted a whole tank of gas just driving up and down the driveway. Finally, I was 16 in one day. It was Tuesday or Wednesday in the middle of May, so I was still in school. I got my mom up out of bed at 7 in the morning, made her drive me to the license branch, got my driver's license, made mom drive me back, jumped in my car, and drove myself to school. Pretty hip, felt good. First weekend that I had my driver's license, what do you think I did? Say it louder. What did I do?
Had friends in it.
Had friends? Well, no. Somebody said went out driving around. I heard somebody say went out driving. That's what I did. I did what you're going to do the first weekend you have your driver's license and access to an automobile, yours or somebody else's. You're going to go out cruising around wasting gas. Hey, what the heck? It's fun. It's a great feeling. You can drive around, a lot of freedom, go anywhere you want. You're only limited by when mom and dad said to be home or by how much money you got in your back pocket that you can pour into the gas tank and go as far out as you can and still have enough gas to make it back home. So that's what I did the first weekend. I was out cruising around. How many of you know where the intersection of 91st and College is? It's up on the far north side. That used to be a 4-way stop sign. It's now a traffic light controlled intersection. It's 9 o'clock on a Friday night. I'm cruising down 91st Street coming up to College, and I look ahead and I see a whole bunch of red lights. There's a sheriff's car, there's an ambulance, there's paramedics. You think I turned around and went the other way? No. What would you have done? Hey, drive up there and see what's going on. That's what I did. Now I'll tell you, I can't remember the second car in the accident. It was a 2-car accident. The car I remember was a Corvette. And the reason I remember it is because it had been split in two. One half of the Corvette was on one side of the road, the other half of the Corvette was on the other side of the road, and the driver was equally distributed between both points. Now that was a significant emotional event to me, looking at that and seeing that. As I'm sitting there in my 1970 Plymouth Duster, 344 barrel, posi-track rear end, dual exhaust, 275 horsepower. All I had was the lap belt, didn't have the shoulder harnesses then. And I looked down, I put my seatbelt on, and I've been wearing it ever since. So about the 4th day I had my driver's license, I was convinced to wear my seatbelt because of seeing that accident. Now, the second significant emotional event that I had related to seatbelts was when I started my law enforcement career as a military police officer. I was 18 years old, stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado, in Colorado Springs, and I was sent to cover my first fatality traffic accident as a police officer, to go cover it, determine what had happened. When I arrived on the scene, this is what I found. One car had driven off the road. There was only one person in the car. They left the road, hit a utility pole, no seatbelt on, ejected through the windshield, flipped over, landed on their back with their head facing what was left of their car, and they were about 50 feet in front of their car. From here to here of their head was gone, just mush and blood. Head was tilted back, wide open. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Blood coming out of the nose, blood coming out of the ears. Mouth was full of blood, and it was trickling out the corners of his mouth. Very much a dead person. Before even going to his car, I knew that he was drunk. How do you think I knew that?
Beer cans.
I never saw a beer can. I could smell it. Why? Because you can smell. Where's the alcohol? It's in the blood. His blood is all over the place. You could smell the alcohol in his blood. Back in his car, there were some open containers. Guys, where do you carry your wallets? Back pocket. I've got to find out who this person is. I've got to identify him. First place I look is in the back pocket. I find his wallet. I pull it out. I find his driver's license. It was in a little plastic carry case. On one side is his driver's license. On the other side is a picture of his wife and his little baby boy. When I went to pull that out, in between that, he had a bundle of cocaine also. All the things close to his heart. Picture of wife, kid, and his bundle of coke. Plus he was drinking. Now, he was in the military. At that time in the military, if you were killed because of an illegal activity, you lost your benefits. How many people's lives did he impact? 2? 3? A lot more than that. First of all, well, me, because I saw it and was having to deal with it, my first fatality accident. His wife is now a widow. His son is fatherless, although if he was a cokehead and a boozer, maybe he did him a favor, I don't know. How about mom and dad, his parents? How about the mother and father-in-law, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, people that knew him, people from his military unit? He's impacted a lot of lives. But the bottom line now is his wife, who didn't work, she has no way to support herself. She didn't even have enough money to bury him because the military is not going to bury him because he killed himself in an illegal activity. Drinking and driving, possession of cocaine. So it affects a lot of people. Those were the 2 significant emotional events that I had for seatbelts. Now I'd like to ask, and be as honest as you can, how many people here, honestly, are now in the habit of wearing seatbelts all the time? Is there anybody that is not? Again, I ask you to be honest, not in the habit. What's your reason? Why don't you? Well, you both raised your hands. It's uncomfortable. Well, let's write some of these down. Okay, you don't wear it because it's uncomfortable. What's your reason? I'm sorry? Looking forward to it. Just no time to buckle up, huh? Too much time. Who else doesn't use their seat belts? What's your reason? Just don't. Never have. I haven't heard from any gals. What's your reason?
People sometimes don't think.
Don't think about it. Okay. Now, usually I have a young lady raise her hand and say, well, it wrinkles my outfit or it chafes my neck or something like that. What?
Can't move around.
Can't move around. Well, where do you want to move? You're driving.
To adjust the way
To adjust, that's not that tight. You can move all around. I adjust all my radios. I have more radios in my car than you have, and I don't have any problem adjusting them. Can't move. Okay, that gives us a few things. Let me tell you this, most accidents occur around 30 to 35 miles per hour. Doesn't sound very fast, does it? For those of you that don't wear your seat belts, if that is the decision you want to make, first of all, make sure you've always got a spare $25, because that's how much a seat belt violation is. And also make sure that everywhere you drive, you're going at least 70 miles an hour. Now the reason I'm saying that is so that when you crash, if you crash, and you don't have your seat belt on, that you'll go completely through the windshield. Because if you're going 30 to 35 miles an hour, where most accidents occur, at the speed most accidents occur, you're just going to go partly out the windshield, and what you don't cut up and mangle on the way out, you'll finish the job as you come back into the car. Keep in mind that when you're in a car that's going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, whatever the speed is, anything that's not fastened down in that car, if it comes to a violent stop, whatever is in the car continues at that speed until it hits something to stop it. If you're the driver and you don't have an airbag in the car, the first thing you're going to hit is the steering wheel and the steering column as that impales your chest. If the impact was severe enough, you're going to continue forward and your face is going to go into the windshield. That's what's going to stop the forward motion. Airbags brings up another point. Airbags are supplemental restraint systems, meaning that they have to be used with the seat belt. Some people have the false assumption of saying, hey, I've got an airbag in my car, I don't need to wear a seat belt. Well, this is what happens when you get into a car with an airbag and don't use your seat belt and get in a crash. In that split second of the crash happening and the airbag activating, your body starts going forward. The airbag comes out to meet it. So you have the two violent forces, your body coming forward still at 40, 50 miles an hour, the airbag coming out at its speed as it inflates, knocking you back. And then because you have no lap belt, there's a phenomenon that's called submarining, and you will submarine underneath. That's what causes both your knees to be broken, your legs to be broken at the knees, and causes your ankles to be broken as you slide forward because of the violent impact. If it's a very high-speed accident, you'll probably break your legs upper and lower aside from at the knees. That's because there's nothing holding you in, and that airbag keeps the top of your body there and the rest of you slides underneath. Seat belts and airbags are designed to be used together. That's why it's a supplemental restraint system. Now this time I've got a very short video that I'm going to show you. Very short. It's only 45 seconds. Kind of gives a lighter side of seat belts. So I'm going to wheel this out and turn that on.
Well, you're not going to get out of this one.
Nope. Okay, kids, it looks like we're going to have a wreck. Put on your safety belts.
If you had a few seconds before a collision, wouldn't you put on your safety belt? Of course you would, but collisions don't wait for you to buckle up. The time to put on your safety belt is before you even get on the road.
Thank goodness for safety belts.
Yeah.
Safety belts. Smart. From the start.
Was that representative of a real-life situation? No. Is that the way accidents happen? Absolutely not. Let me tell you something. If that's how accidents happen, if you could freeze frame and say, uh-oh, looks like we're going to have a crash, everybody buckle up, screw that, I'm getting out of the car. You know, let it crash, I don't care. The car is replaceable, I'm not. You know, that's not representative of a real-life situation, obviously. The time to be prepared for an accident is before you even pull out of the driveway. You may think that you're the world's best driver. Well, I got news for you, and I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. 10 to 15% of the people driving in Marion County are either unlicensed or revoked drivers, meaning they're really piss-poor drivers. You may be a great driver. You may not hit anything. It's one of those fools that are going to hit you. So you've got to be prepared by being alert, driving defensively, and buckling up. That's the preparation. You can't wait until it's about to happen and say, oh, King's Hex, let me freeze this, put my belt on. Then it's too late. Then it's too late. We've got about 32 people in this room. Usually the class sizes I have around 25. I'd like to ask you each now to take a look at the person beside you, look into their eyes, look at the person behind you or in front of you, look into their eyes. Go ahead and do that for me. There's a reason. The reason I asked you to do that is somebody in this room has looked into the eyes of a dead person. Somebody in this room is not going to live to see their 25th birthday. They're going to be killed in an auto accident. And I'm not saying that they will have been intoxicated, but what I am saying is that this accident will have killed them. And it may have been their fault, somebody else's fault, or nobody's fault, but they will still be just as dead. And there's a good chance that alcohol will have been involved in that accident. And again, I'm not saying that you would have been the intoxicated person, but maybe you made the decision to get into the car with an intoxicated person, and their driving actions got you in an accident that ended up in your death. Or you may have been minding your own business, and some drunk plows into you. It comes back again to the key point. You've got to be the defensive driver. You have to be paying attention. The time that is most likely for you to be involved in an accident is when you're out driving with your friends. You've got somebody up in the front seat, you've got two other people in the back seat. You're driving along somewhere, maybe going out to the movies. You're talking about who's dating who, what big game's coming up, what teacher do you hate the most, which one do you like the best. All the stuff that state cop said and whether you thought it was a bunch of malarkey or not. And you're looking over to one side or talking to your friend behind you, and you're missing that split-second thing that's happening in front of you that if you were paying attention, you could have avoided the accident. You've got to pay attention.